Welcome to the Internet Money Podcast. I have my good friend Harry Beadle. He is a copywriting expert. I know him from the Twitter and newsletter sphere, and he's also pumping out courses these days. So I'm very impressed with Harry's output. So Harry, if you only had 1 minute to tell the audience how to launch and grow a successful online brand with or without copywriting, what would you tell them?
First is understanding how people think, right? Like people drive, like if you're building a business, right, you have to understand that like they are the drivers of like what gives you revenue. Like you have to understand like how to get inside their mind, like not like in a manipulative way, but like understand what they're going through so that you can reflect that in anything you write, any products you put out. Because like ultimately, because people are quite self-centered, not in a bad way, but that's just how we think. So if you can appeal to their own self-interests, your product and reflect that in your product and your marketing and everything like that, that then sets you apart so much more than anything else. Like in my opinion, that's been my experience. It's just understanding people and then being able to communicate that in a way which is relatable to them.
And I'm sure people are like, Harry, like, I hear you. I'd love to understand them. Tell them some actionable tips on like, how can you start to understand better your audience? And feel free to use your own personal audience as an
Yeah,
example.
like I mean, it's going to sound silly, but like ask them questions. Like I spend a lot of my time like not just like writing content, but like actually talking to the audience that I deal with, like whether that's like clients or customers or like just people who like subscribe to my newsletter. I actually ask them, like I send out surveys and like tell me what you're struggling with the most. Tell me why you think you're struggling with it. Tell me like the emotions you're going through, what it feels like to you. And that's like beneficial for two reasons. Is first of all, like you actually then understand the problems that are worth solving. But secondly, like you also understand like how to market anything you bring, because like again, like I say, you've got to appeal to their self-interests, and the only way you find that out is actually talking to them and like actually listening. Like that's probably like one of the biggest skills.
And I think one of the trickier things as like marketers is we want to talk with the client, and we're a bit like, how do we do this? Like, obviously, if people are paying us money, it's a lot easier. But talk
Yeah,
to
yeah.
us a little bit about how you survey your audience. Is it like, hey, you're sending out Twitter polls? Are you just like sending out a newsletter blast? Like, hey, reply with, survey, and we'll have a quick call.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways. There's like Twitter polls, and also you can like if you read through the comments, right? People like there's clues. If there's clues in there, people talk about like the problems they're going through. You don't even necessarily need to ask them directly. But yeah, then there's also like stuff like newsletter surveys and like just the responses that people like they reach. If you touch a pain point, they will often reach out to you and be like, yeah, this is what I've been going through. That's then like not just fuel for your marketing, but like it informs what to do next with like your business. And yeah, obviously, like I think as well, like just hopping on calls with people, whether they're like clients or just like people in your audience, like even like a 10-15 minute call can give you like so much data to then like drive what you then do. But it's just about like asking a few probing questions and then listening to what the person tells you. Like they want help. You just need to be like receptive to listening.
Yeah, and to give you some context on the listenership here, so we've got people that run like mostly lead gen agencies. We got people that do like AI automation agencies, things of that nature. So these people have largely been getting clients through like cold DMs, cold outreach, or not as much in the content creation space. So talk to us a little, because you did this where you kind of built a brand first and then were able to monetize it. So talk to us a little bit about like how you got into like the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, I guess like I was in like a 9 to 5. Didn't necessarily enjoy it particularly. I think I had like a problem like doing what other people told me to do, and I wanted to do something where like I called the shots, even if it was like I think it's harder. It's well, you probably know this yourself. It's like way harder to actually run a business than it is to just work a 9 to 5. Like there's a lot like especially at the start. It's like you are like fumbling around in the dark. Like you don't know what you're doing, and like you are on your own. That's honestly pretty scary at times. But like I fluctuate between like I have a lot of self doubt a lot of the time, but one of the things you like train yourself to do is like, okay, you have a bad day, but like, okay, you can get through this, right? And I think just like adopting that mindset for me was like super crucial. Of like whatever problem you face, like, there is a solution. You can sit down and work it out, even if it like feels really stressful. That was like one of the first things I I think I'm not perfect at it, but I think I've definitely gotten better at it in the past like 10 months or however long I've been doing this.
Yeah, and doubling down on what you say about like in being a 9 to 5er. So I think we were both software engineers. It's a
Yeah.
lot easier. Like it's tough to learn how to code, but once you learn how to code, they can kind of toss you on any project and you know
Yeah.
the things. But in order to start a business, you need to know, like, be minimally viably competent at creating a landing page, writing some kind
Yeah.
of copywriting, sales. Like you get your first sales call. I
Yeah.
spent my first sales call 10 minutes negotiating against myself because the guy just
Yeah.
wasn't saying anything.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
there's
like,
just so many
you,
skills.
yeah, it's like, I think it was Daniel Fazio. He watched the video and I watched it really early on and he was like, you've got to be minimally viably competent at like everything. Like you can't just be like a salesperson. It's like, you need to, like, if you're actually running the business, like you have to be able to do everything, like to at least to a decent degree.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you started, so if I remember correctly, you were working your software engineering job and then you started posting on X. Did you take like a Dan Co course, or like what got you completely started?
I think I found him on YouTube. I started listening to it, and it like made a lot of sense to me. And it's something that had been playing in my mind for years. So I think he just like caught me at the right. It just like caught me at a moment where I was like, I'm kind of like in a good position now. I could like reasonably probably pull the plug here and like it like have a good bit of leeway, like bit of runway to build this thing. And then I took one of his courses, but I also bought like a book by like Nicholas Cole, which was like the art and business of online writing. That was awesome. It was like $10. It was like a $10 book or something like that. But it was like I binged it in like 2 days, and I was like, sweet. Like I feel like I now understand better how to like write online because it's very different to like the sort of writing you do in school.
Yeah, and I'm sure many people here are going to be like, "Hey, I spent so much time running my agency," or like maybe they built their agency on the back of ads, and they're trying to get into. Many people I talk to are trying to get into the organic content game. So, you have any tips on like, hey, how do you grow on X, or how do you grow on some written based platform? Could be X, could be LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a few things. First, again, it's like goes back to that like understanding like the audience that you want to attract, like what are the problems they're solving, like or they're trying to solve, what are the emotions they're going through, etc. And then like there's combining that with like the knowledge of like what a good performing post looks like, because like you have to be able to like catch people's attention. Because like the trap, like I think a lot of people, especially like established business owners, fall into is like they actually have a really good product, but like they don't know how to like make people interested in it and like relate the product to what their audience is going through. So like they don't get the traction that they want when all it really takes is just showing like connecting the dots in a very like, logical manner, like to show their target audience like how their product solves their problem. And then once you've done that, like why would they not buy, right? Or like why would they not follow you or something like that?
Yeah, and let's maybe give an example, because you're obviously talking to a specific set of your audience. One, tell people who your like general audience is. Like, who are you writing towards? And like, let's talk a little bit about like stopping the scroll, because I think this is the big thing that people need to work on, is like actually getting people to stop and click on their post.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of my audience are it's like copywriters, like email marketers, and people, and a lot of them are also people like who are doing what I did, which is like building like a personal brand alongside their 9 to 5, or they've exited, but now they're like trying to like scale it. So like, it's sort of like I don't like to necessarily nail down like the person that I'm talking to. What I like to nail down is like the problem that I'm solving. Right, it's a specific problem, and that then like if, for example, like if you help people write better emails, like that then appeals that the solution appeals to like a much broader market, right? Because that then applies to like freelance copywriters, freelance email marketers, like people building their personal brand. It's like you can niche down in different ways, but one give like niching down on like the problem that you solve then allows you to attract a broader audience while still speaking like to their actual desires. And like in terms of stopping the scroll, for me, it's like it's got to be short, it's got to be punchy, and it's got to like pass like the no context test in terms of like if someone is scrolling on their phone, like can they like that first line, can it do they understand like what the point of the entire post is going to be if they weren't like if they weren't to read the rest of it? Like that's what's going to like grab their attention. It has to like either tease at like a problem they've got or a pain point they're having related to that, because that's like you're basically trying to create like an emotional trigger, which is like shit, this is me, like this is relevant to me.
And before you kind of started maybe internalizing this, were you using a lot of templates? I know like some writers online are like, I hate templates. Some are like, hey, you got to get started somewhere.
Yeah, I think I was always not I've never really been a template guy. There's obviously like best practices which I've sort of internalized now, and I maybe had to think about them more at the start, whereas now I can just do it. But like I was never like sat down with like one window open of like a template and one window where I was writing. It was never like that. I was just like thinking through, okay, like how can I make this more concise? How can I make this like more relatable? How can I make it easier for the person to understand? And just like I think that process, even though it's harder to do, like thinking for yourself, I think like I don't think there's a substitute for like the neurological programming it gives you, because like if you just always just use templates, as soon as they're like not in front of you can't do it. You have to like internalize the process.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually because I come from the gamosphere, so I
Mm.
used to work with like some very engineering people, much like ourselves. And guys would be like, "What's an opening line?" Opening line. There'd be like some coaches. They'd be like, "Oh, you don't need an opening line." And I would always just like give them an opening line. They're gonna fumble it anyway. Like at least give them
Yeah,
something to
yeah,
say.
exactly, literally, exactly.
So talk to us a little bit about, because I know you're also very interested in storytelling. And if you read like Russell Brunson's book, it seems like every major marketer, if you ask Alex Hormozy a question, for example, he's just going to launch into a story. But most people hear like storytelling is important, but then they don't really know how to do it themselves. Are
Yeah,
there like, talk to us a little bit about storytelling. Are there any like frameworks you use or?
I think like the main problem a lot of people have with storytelling is like, but I think there's two. I think first of all they think they need like a crazy backstory. It's like you don't. That's actually less relatable to people, because like most people haven't like I don't know, most people haven't started like as like a homeless person on the street and like risen to like $100 million business. It's just not a relatable story. And secondly, I think when people tell the story, they don't go into the specifics. It's very surface level, right? It's like talk about like one specific moment which really stood out to you, and like that might feel like you're then like going to attract a smaller group of people, and that may be true, but like the people who it does like click with, it's going to hit really hard, and that's what's going to like make them actually resonate with what you're saying. I think like ultra specificity is like one of the key things there.
And then do you abide by like any kind of like storytelling framework? Are you like a Russell Brunson, like, hey, epiphany bridge, or like it was an offer hook story or something like that? Like do you
Yeah,
try to follow any of these frameworks, or it's kind of
a
just
little
intuitive?
bit. I have like I have my own sort of internalized one, which is like I call it ACTS, acts. I guess like the idea being like you're trying to make people act. So, like you're trying, like that's what all writing is trying to do. It's like A is like attention, right? You got to get people interested in the first place. Then typically what happens is once you've got someone's attention, there's like a gap between what they understand and what you understand. It's like the C is like context. Like you've got to bridge all of the knowledge that then makes the story relevant to them. And then there needs to be some sort of like mental or like physical transformation that either you went through or someone else has gone through, which is going to show the person how you got from like point A to point B, which is a journey that they want to go on. And then like S is like the solution, and that might be like where you pitch your offer. It might just be like a step-by-step process they can follow to achieve this themselves. And that final part is what gives them like clarity on like their next actions. And I think that's what a lot of people actually want. It's just like I need to be clear on what I actually need to do now.
All right, so now we've figured out how to stop the scroll. We got some knowledge on writing stories, and a big thing aside from X/Twitter or whatever they want to call it in the future, you're also big into writing newsletters. So talk to us a little
Yeah.
bit about like, is there a big difference in the content there? Like why even start a newsletter?
Yeah. I think in terms of why to start one, for me, it's like a way you build a way deeper connection, where there's a bunch of reasons, but like firstly, like you build a much deeper connection with your audience, because like newsletters are typically like much longer form than like a tweet. So like you stick in people's mind for longer, and you start to develop like an actual relationship with like your readership. They'll start reaching out to you to ask questions, and that's when like you get to understand how they're thinking better. And secondly, like obviously like I think a big fear a lot of people have is that they spend like months or even years building out like a social profile on like Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and then suddenly it gets banned, and it's like, okay, well, where's your business gone? Like it's like, whereas a newsletter, like you just you've got a downloadable CSV of all your emails that like if you just like back that up every few weeks, like that can't ever really be taken away from you. So like you've kind of like got this asset that will stand the test of like if a social platform goes down or something like that, like you're safe. And then like in terms of like, I think the big benefit is like instead of like messaging a bunch of people like with your offers that you have to kind of like manually do, you can just ping out like an email, have it hit like however many thousand people's inboxes with an offer, and it's like you just like see sales come in if you know how to like write the email well. Like if you know how to construct a persuasive argument, direct them to a sales page, and then be like, here's where you are, here's where you want to be, here's how this product, service, etc. gets you there. Like that's a very, very powerful tool. If you can just write a 60-minute email in the morning and like make sales from that, that's a pretty nice setup.
Pretty good ROI. And now if people, that makes me think of two things. So if people are familiar with a certain bald head fighter who runs their Real World, when they got banned off all their social media, they still had a million person newsletter. And that's how they were able to build back their business really, really rapidly. And then buying behavior. So I remember people can go back to the episode with Anthony about growing your podcast. When people listen to podcasts, they're not necessarily in buying behavior. They're like on the tube or like they're walking to work, and they're not like, oh, hey, I got to buy this. So what he recommends to do is direct people to a newsletter. He says people are just way more willing to buy things on newsletters than they are.
So the difference, I think, I can't remember who it was who said this quite well. I think it might have been J.K. Molina. He was like, the expectation on social media is to be entertained. The expectation in a newsletter is to be helped. When you're open to being helped, you're open to like offers and buying, basically, right? And I think that's the difference. Is like if you're pitching on like social media, like the expectation is different. People aren't there. People aren't scrolling to buy.
And how do you get people onto your newsletter? Because like, hey, now we know how to write the stories, we know how to stop the scroll, but how do we even get people to sign up?
So I guess there's two ways. There's one like with like organic content, like on social platforms, and like you like direct like under your post, you can like plug your newsletter. You can have it in your bio. So it'd be like, go here if you want to learn more about this. Here's the benefit of signing up, etc. It's just push them towards a landing page where they can submit their email. Then you've got like paid ads, which I haven't actually explored yet, but I'm open to exploring in the future. I don't know enough about them myself to confidently give any advice on it. Because I've just built mine with like organic content so far. But yeah, it's typically like get someone interested with like a surface level problem on like a social media channel, show you understand what they're going through, and then be like, if you want to further help solving this problem, here's the landing page, submit your email, I'll send you emails which help you do this, and then in there it's like offers.
Yeah, I'll even share some dirty knowledge that I know from a guy, Cody Schneider. So if you can really easily target your ICP via some kind of cold email scraping tool, so what you can actually do is you can scrape a bunch of emails off of Apollo and then start sequencing them in little by little into a newsletter. They've grown newsletters to like 40K plus just based off cold email scraping. Because like imagine you got like some, hey, this is the copywriter's playbook newsletter, and it was good. You probably would be like, I probably signed up for this somewhere.
I like that. I might have to pick your brain on that more.
I have a whole call I could send you after this on like growing podcasts with newsletters, things of that nature. So let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about how to grow your newsletter. We've talked about how to like write on Twitter. Talk to us a little bit about like, are there any copywriting frameworks? Because like most of these guys, like they come from like lead gen agencies, and maybe they're not the best at writing copy. Are there any like frameworks like paths? Like do you follow any of these, or it's mostly intuitive?
Honestly, no. People like ask me all this all the time. Like, what's the framework that you use? It's like for me, like I guess I do follow like that sort of like AIDA or PAS framework that like you see. But like that's when I think about writing copy, I'm not sat there like, what? All right, am I writing the A? Am I writing the I? It's like I do it more intuitively. Like, and when I read like the experience of like the best copywriters in the game, a lot of them talk about like that's the better way to do it, because like if you like there's a sense like when you're reading something, there's a sensation of like is this natural, like does this flow? And I think if you get overly fixated on the frameworks, you lose that sense of like natural flow to the writing, and the story starts to feel like chunky rather than like one unified piece. So when I'm writing copy, typically what I do is I will vomit out everything I have, and then I'll go back through and like, okay, does this logically follow each step? Am I am I taking the reader from where they are right now to where they want to be, and like touching on all of the pain points as I go? And that for me is more important than like following a set structured framework. Like I've seen some copywriting pages that like follow like terrible best practices, but like they convert because like it's about like the element of surprise and giving some like keeping people's attention, just keeping them scrolling down. And if you're talking about their world, I think there's like lots of different ways to go about that.
Yeah, and let's say somebody's like, hey, I wanna learn some copywriting, and obviously they can take your courses. What kind of things do you recommend? Is there like a book you really like? Where some people like what's it, cash advertising? Some people fucking hate it.
I think one of the best ones I ever read early on was Gary Halbert's The Boron Letters. It just gave me like a really good understanding of like how to write in a way that like appeals to people's like self-interests, like and like which is like 95% of the game. And then the other, this is like a paid newsletter, but like Ben Settle, I don't know if you know him. Mm. Yeah, like he's got like an awesome newsletter, like, and they're actually fun to read.
I'd say he attacks your inbox, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, if you sign up, like prepare to like literally just be nuked by emails. But like, I like it because they're actually like good, and like quite interesting. And he has a paid version which you like subscribe to, but like then he like goes more in depth on like how to do stuff rather than just like explaining like the surface level stuff. That for me was really, really useful. Like I think that's one of the best resources. Again, it's like $97 a month, but like for me, it's like the ROI is there.
Yeah, maybe I'll just subscribe to the pro one and hope that it's less than it's just one email a day.
Oh no, he doesn't email you with you get a monthly like paperback thing that he mails out to you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Okay, let's talk a little bit about course creation, because we have a lot of people can go back to Sean's episode. He writes for a bunch of 7 and 8 figure course agencies. They can go back to Nabil's. He scales info products to I think he did $100K a month in December. So let's talk a little bit about like course creation, because we've talked about scaling courses, but we haven't talked about like creating them from scratch.
Yeah, I think that the first thing you've got to assess is like what does your like readership actually want? Like for me, like one of the first ones I created was like one I launched like a month or two ago was like people struggling to like land clients, right? Like they didn't understand the process of doing that. So I was like, right, I'm going to help you write content which attracts like the audience that you're actually trying to attract, right? That's what I'm going to build it around. There was other like, here's how you write, like just like write better, like help them like build those fundamentals in it. But that was kind of the premise of it. And like for me, like that's the first stage. It's like actually assess what your audience wants. We talked about like the surveys and stuff like that to assess that question. And then I think when you're building the product, what I did differently to most people is like as I was building it, like I would write like a section, and then like I would actually email, like a lot of the times I would actually basically write an email version of that section in my email. Like if I got a good response, I was like, sweet, it's obviously resonated with people. Like, and then I just put that in the course. And I was also like DMing people like, hey dude, like I just wrote this part of the course. Like if like it's your like feel free to have a read. Like I'm not gonna charge you anything, just like give me some feedback. Is this useful? What else is there anything like confusing in there that I could word better? And like that way, like by the time you come to the finished product, like it's not only like useful, but it's like worded in a way which like your audience can like fully resonate with and understand and then implement.
Yeah, and do you recommend like a specific structure of course? Like some people are like, hey, just give them like a written ebook. Some people are like, hey, videos plus like school community. You have any like preference on that
Yeah, I
or?
kind of like I'm kind of a writer, so like I just did a written version of mine, but I think probably the best way to do it is like a video like some sort of combination of video in there, because like I think a lot of people just want to sit down and be able to watch like I don't know 5 to 10 minute videos, just like zoom through the course really quickly and then go back and rewatch as they need. That's probably the better way to do it, which I will probably try and do with my next one. Um, and then the other thing I would say is like the completion rate on courses is like really low. I think the average is
Abysmal.
like honestly, I think it's like 10 or 15%, because people like buy, they get that hit of dopamine and they lose interest. And it's like, so what you need to do is like the first part of the course needs to be like the best bit. Don't like save it to the end, because like people don't get there. Like it's like so many people, like even no matter how good you make it, like a lot of people just aren't going to read through it. It's like you want to like front load all of the best stuff, and then like have like the more boring but still important stuff towards the back.
Yeah, I think it was Fazio was talking about when he launched his first and very famous cold email course. I think he told me it was like an hour and 30 minutes. And he was like, dude, he's like, people will flaunt like, hey, I have a 40-minute course or like a 40-hour course. And you're like, nobody wants that. It's like,
Yeah,
get to the information fast.
I think I remember watching his video. He was like, I literally just filmed a video of me basically like screaming at them, telling them what to do, and it just like that was the entire course. And it's like fair enough, like that is what people want.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk. You're also really a big fan, or at least historically were, of giveaways. Do you still feel like this is a good way to like want to like grow your newsletter, get people into your course, or is that a kind of like a tactic you've eased off of?
100% a good tactic to grow your newsletter. Yeah, and I think also to build some sort of trust with your audience, because like when they consume like a free product from you that solves a specific problem, it first like yes, it builds trust, but it also gives you the chance to go, okay, like you've solved this specific problem. Here's the next one that's like gonna like when you solve a problem, right? Like then another problem just appears, like the follow on, and then you can be like, okay, I've solved this problem, I've built trust with you. Here's a paid version which you can pay, which you can get access to, that will solve the problem that you're now presented with, right?
Yeah, and then when you started it, if I'm not mistaken, you used to send people like a Canva link, and then I think you graduated to doing
Yeah,
Gumroad.
it's just a terrible method. I like again, like that was early on. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just like writing these. I was like, I think it was good information in there, but like
Good
the
information.
presentation was just like, I think it was just like it's just a terrible way to present it. If I could go back and do it again now, I would just slap like Fazio did, like a big like a YouTube video and like a Notion document. Then people like got to spend 10 minutes watching, and then I'm like, right, here's my offer at the end. And it's just like that's just it's so much more seamless.
Yeah. Well, one interesting funnel I've seen, and I'll credit Stephen G. Pope. This is the first time I ever saw it, and I'm now seeing it being replicated by a few other people. Is what they'll do is they'll store all the lead magnets in their own free community, and the free community serves as like an upsell to like
Yeah, yeah,
Gary's coaching program.
yeah. I've seen people do that too. I think that's probably yeah. I've seen people build out like I've seen it done a few ways. Some people do it like really low ticket, some people do it free, but it's basically like an entry point, right? So it's like you
Yeah.
get some MRR from the community, but like really what people are looking for is like find the best people within there and then like upsell them to like the high ticket stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a client ascension type funnel.
Exactly. I think it's exactly like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I don't know if you've ever considered doing that, or what's your current approach? Is it send them to Gumroad, collect emails, and then sequence them into your newsletter?
Yeah, exactly that. And then the pitch is happening there. But I'm thinking about the funnel I'm probably going to set up now is like uh, someone subscribes, they get redirected to redirected to like a tripwire product, whether that's a community to stack like MRR, or if it's just like a simple like $19 book. And then I'll get an understanding of like in a better understanding of like who the buyers are in my list. Like just straight out the gate, and I'll be able to filter out right who should I pitch more offers to, and then the emails themselves will be probably. I tend to find that via emails, like people are less receptive to uh, higher ticket offers, but they're very willing to like buy like lower ticket, like workshops, products like that, which if you then include your like upsell in, I find that works better.
Yeah, I can let you know what like Christian and Fazio do for internet money, which is I think it might be like their $30 a month course. So what they'll
Yeah.
do is they'll get people in the course and then they have an onboarding call. So that onboarder, and this is very common amongst info products, is that onboarding call is actually a
It's,
discovery call for whether
yeah.
they can elevate you into something like client ascension.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. So a very, very interesting way that they go about things. So let's talk a little bit about like the 80-20. So you talked about like, hey, in the past I was using Canva. That just wasn't the right approach. Like talk to us if you had to like do things over again, like what's kind of like the 20% that led to the 80% of your results?
I think like, um, I think like getting really good at like persuasive writing is like the key thing, because it doesn't actually matter how good your offer is if you can't show people how it solves their problem, like relate to them, like it just becomes irrelevant, and people don't like, you need people to see what you can do for them. And I think like that was one of the things that helped me the most. uh an appreciation of like positioning, which is like similar to what we talked about. It's like positioning your offer relative to like what they need, right? That's probably the key thing, which I did. I got to grips with pretty early on, more than most people. I think that's the one thing. Like my offers are not like when I pitch people an offer, it's like it's very much catered to them. Like because if it's like a copywriting client or a ghostwriting client, like they always have like a different thing that they want to achieve. So it's like I need to cater it to them. But like the key part is just like this is how it's sold. This is how it like relates to your specific situation.
Yeah. And then do you use like a lot of different tools? Like for, I know you use Beehive for newsletter. Are you like tagging people? Because you mentioned like, hey, who are the buyers in my list? Are you like applying tags to these people? Like, hey,
Yeah, so
whales.
I have tags to the people who have bought in the past. I'm not currently doing a lot in terms of like pitching them more frequently and stuff like that. But that is something that I want to lean into in the past. It's just like haven't I just haven't had the time yet. So
Yeah,
I
bandwidth.
need to lean into that more.
All right, so let's get into some of the rapid fire questions because I know this is what
Let's
the
do it,
people
man.
love. So, what's a bad recommendation, or like what's the worst recommendation you hear in your like line of expertise? And this could be like common belief or
The worst recommend. I think like I don't know if it's the worst recommendation. But it's like the worst practice. It's like people just like spend like fucking ages fiddling around with like their landing page, their bio, their like banner and shit. And it's like that doesn't move the needle. It's like what moves the needle is just like making offers and then being like, did this hit? Yes, great. I'll continue to pitch that. If it didn't work out, why? Ask people why, and then just like pivot it. It's like that's what actually like moves the needle and gets you gaining traction, but not fiddling around with all the finicky details.
yeah. And then what do you think is like the current marketing arbitrage? So let me preface this question. So in the past, a lot of people thought like, hey, Google ads until the prices went up. Then it was, Meta ads. Some people still think it's that. Many people say TikTok shop or posting on LinkedIn is like the current like underpriced attention. What do you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's. I think LinkedIn is pretty good. Like I've done like almost zero posts on there, but like every time I do, you just gain a bunch of followers. Like because like I think the engagement is just so high, and there's like so few people who actually regularly post on there. It's like less than 1% of the user base. And for me, the biggest arbitrage though is like getting like decent at YouTube, because like one of the things that someone said to me early on, or like, I guess a copywriter called Brandon Story, really nice guy, but he was like, I was reading your content for like weeks, and then I wasn't really sure if I like trusted you or liked you or not. And then you posted like a quick like Loom video of you just walking something through something on Twitter. It's like instant trust, and now we're like really good mates. So it's like the video content is just like it's just huge. I think like that's, and I've seen loads of creators moving over to that space from just purely written.
Yeah, the one thing I always preface for YouTube is like, yeah, just be prepared because it is like the
As well.
NFL or like the professional leagues. It's like people
Yeah,
don't play on YouTube.
yeah,
It's
it's
hardcore.
really competitive. Yeah, I'm not a really competent guy on this, so I can't give huge amounts of advice, but that's something I want to learn more about,
Yeah.
because I see the potential. One of the things that I'm doing is like I don't know how to grow on there. But what I do know how to do is redirect traffic that I already have to there. So in my newsletter, in my like Twitter, I could just push people towards the post and leverage the audience I've already got.
Yeah, I'll say something that's quite underpriced is actually YouTube ads themselves, because what you can do is you don't have to refresh the creatives as much as something on like a Facebook ad. Long form, I've seen like big creators only redo their ads like 2 ads a year, 3 ads a year.
That's pretty low frequency, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it just builds a lot of trust. It's similar with podcasting. It's like if someone's willing to put you in their ears for 45 minutes when they go on a walk, like they trust the heck out of you.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's like a real trust barrier just like breached.
Yeah. And then if you only could recommend like one business book, I know you recommended a copywriting book earlier. Would you recommend that exact same book to the audience, or what would be your business book? And we always preface that no Hermosi is allowed. Unfortunately, sorry,
Yeah,
we love you.
Honestly, for like probably for specific copywriting, yes, but like I think for getting an understanding of like what it takes, I think most markets now like are pretty saturated, like or will become saturated. One of the things that I really liked was Seth Godin's Purple Cow, which is like about like standing out in a marketplace, like by leaning into like your unique like story and stuff like that, and finding like a way to like become remarkable without necessarily having to be the best.
And then is there a wealth account is there something you took away from that book? Like a lot of people think like, hey, my life is so normal.
Yeah.
Well, is there something you recommend that you learned from that book where you're like, here's how I was able to do it for me?
Yeah, I think for me it goes back to the remarkability comes from like the specific experiences that you've been through, which if you can describe them in explicit detail, like makes your audience feel like way more connected to you. And like that, I think that's something that Seth talks a lot about in that book, is like lean into what has happened to you in as much detail as possible, because like other people might not have had that exact same experience, but a very close one. That's what makes you remarkable without actually being like the world's best at X.
Yeah, and I'll even say for Harry himself, like I related to him because one, he came from a software engineering background and like kind of I'll say achieved the top of the wagey hierarchy, as I like to call it. And you're just like, wow, this kind of sucks. And then you had
exactly. Yeah,
you had another
like,
one about a breakup. Yeah, you had another one about like a breakup with a girlfriend. And I was like, I feel this.
Yeah. I think I posted about that the other day. I think everyone, like I got like loads of engagement because I think like loads of people have been through something like that, and that's like I think that's a big barrier that's just on that point. I think a lot of the barrier that people have is they don't actually let people into like what like the like vulnerable stuff, and because of that, like their audience feels vulnerable. But then when this person like puts in the front, which is something I'm trying to get better at as well. Like I'm not perfect at that. Like letting people in more is a way to build a better connection. But like that's not easy to do, because especially like you're posting on it for anyone to see. Like it's like a relatively scary experience.
Yeah, you can run into like the Tumblr girl thing where you're like talking about some very serious things. You're like, I don't know if I should have posted that blog post.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's talk about some social media channels that you would recommend. And I like to break it down into health, wealth, relationships. So like what's a health account you think is very good? Because historically, I think Harry has like a full 6-pack. He's a pretty ripped guy.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know about that, but I really resonated. I don't know if you know. Do you know Gregor Gallagher?
Gregor Gallagher, Kinobotting.
Yep. I think he's awesome. Like, first of all, I think he's a really damn good marketer. He knows his way around that space. But like, I think he's just got very like actionable, like realistic ways to achieve results without having to like train obsessively. Like I don't like fast or anything like that, but I like his principles of like minimalist training, like a few times in the week in the gym rather than like 6, and like just focusing on like the fundamentals. Like I really liked his approach there.
Yeah. And how about a wealth person?
Wealth person. I don't actually follow a lot of the big wealth. Oh, no, I'll tell you who I do. I really like, do you know My First Million podcast with Sam Parr and Sean?
Yes. I'd say that's one of the most common recommendations.
That's such a good, I would just sit and watch that for fun. I'm not even trying to learn. It's just like, those two are just fun to watch.
Yeah, they're good. A relationships person.
Relationships. Oh, Brian Meyerhofer on Twitter. He's like him and me like talk quite a lot. He's a really cool guy. Really, like, genuinely really nice. And like I think he's got background in like psychological therapy and like he just touches on a lot of like quite relatable stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to write that down because we usually get Chris Williamson. We don't get too much spread in the
Yeah.
relationship sphere, which is quite interesting. What's the best purchase you've made under $500 that's made like the biggest impact on your life?
Um,
Probably recently. We don't need to know about like a bed when you were a younger kid or anything like that.
yeah, I think I not because it was the best course, but it was the first time I felt like I was committing to building this thing. It was like Dan Coe's 2 Hour Writer. Like it's decent, but it didn't like change like how I wrote hugely. But like I think like just making that first purchase where I was like, okay, like I've actually like committed some sort of like a very small amount of capital to this thing, but like now I feel like I'm sort of bought in. I think that was a big mental shift for me.
Yeah, sorry Dan, but I ended up pirating your course and I don't think I got the full effect because anytime you get something for free, it just doesn't hit nearly as
Yeah,
hard.
no, it doesn't like you don't commit to it.
You don't commit to it.
I
All
remember like
right, so
analyzing it for hours, and I was like, this, like, even just like feeling forced to do that is value in itself.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's imagine you wake up tomorrow. Everyone kind of forgets about you. Nobody knows about you, like your social
yeah,
media, no more job connections, any of that kind of stuff. But I'll give you like a Tweet Hunter account. I'll give you a Beehive subscription and a Premium X. How would you kind of build back your business
mm,
in the next 30 days? Like you can take with you all the knowledge you have.
yeah. I think immediately what I would do is I think I've heard someone ask this question before, and it was like it's exactly what I would do. Is like I would pick a very specific target audience, right? Like a I would then start reaching out to people who had like a big audience. Um, Given that I know like what I know now, like I kind of understand the basic principles of like value exchange and like how you even if you don't have a big audience, like how to connect with like the right people. I would build an audience with them. I would write just like make like the perfect like thread or long form post which just captures people's attention, and then use that to like drive traffic towards like a simple landing page with an offer for them that I could help them with. And I think like given that I have the experience I know now, I think like I would be able to deliver on that.
And
So
just,
like
and just so
I think I
I'm
could
complete,
yeah.
just so I'm completely following, is it like, hey, you're gonna write like here's the 10 things I learned about Dan, like from Dan Co, or is it?
No, I think what I do is like I'd think about what the offer would be. So let's say it's like I can help you. Like, I don't know. Let's say it's like a business owner who's stressed about like his products not making sales. Right. I would then write a thread which just demonstrates like undeniably that I know like how to write good copy. Like I would just like make it like perfect, and then I would push people. Like I would grab people's attention with a hook which spoke to like a business owner in that situation, push him towards like a sales page for like my offer, which is like I can help you make more sales basically, and and then reach out to like other big accounts who can then retweet it and offer them value in exchange for that, so that it then spreads to a wider audience.
And then like, what kind of value could you offer these like bigger accounts, given that like your account is almost at zero or?
I think I think like the like for example, like I could find problems in their current approach. Like maybe it's their funnel, maybe it's like I don't know the copy on their page, maybe it's their offer, and I'm like, have you considered repositioning it here? Because like tell me about your audience. Like let's find a gap like between like a disconnect between what they're thinking and like your offer. Like help them fix that, and then be like I've offered you up front, and then like a day later be like, hey dude, just posted this tweet, like if you like it, retweet or something like that. It's done like I've given value like up front, law of reciprocity kicks in, and they just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. This reminds me a lot of people can go back to Evan's episode where he signed, I don't think I'm allowed to say some of his clients, but you'd all know them by first name and they're massive on YouTube. But he sends like, if he wants to assign a whale, he'll send them like a 70-page creative brief, like everything about their funnel, like rewritten. And he signs some incredible people.
Yeah, this is what like I tell people to do. It's like if if you put in some effort, like it becomes a lot easier. Well, it's like harder to put in the upfront effort, but like your chances of success just go through the roof.
Yeah, I'll tell people something I've recently been doing, and people can steal this and throw this in any niche because I know a lot of Web3 people aren't here, is I've been writing educational email courses for companies because almost no companies, even though they have a newsletter, one, they don't even have a welcome page, and two, they have no reason for people to sign up for their newsletter.
Yeah.
So you can
Oh,
easily
so they
just
haven't
give
got
it
like
up.
a lead magnet or anything like valuable.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. And how, like when you're reaching out to them, like what's your process for doing that? Like how do you get them interested?
So I'll film like a quick Loom video. So some people say to like send the message first and then film the Loom video. I'll send a Loom video and then I'll send them the emails for free because my goal is to take over writing their newsletter. I don't really care if they pay for the email course.
You'll take the upfront hit and then
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing you'll notice is if you're targeting specific verticals, like let's say you're targeting marketing attribution software SaaSes, and if you write like 2 educational email courses, like you can pretty much just have like a good one and then have Claude like swap out their email copy for them. So it's like, hey, I drafted you guys up a 5-day email course about the top 5 marketing attribution mistakes people make. Would this be interesting for you guys? And you just send them a Gamma doc full of the things.
Yeah,
and then if they're interested, they'll take it.
Yeah. And I know a lot of the problems that like my audience have is like, actually finding these people in the first place. Like they actually don't know who to reach. Like, how do you do that?
So I got kind of lucky because I was living with a guy that was doing at the time he was doing about 20K doing technical writing for Web3 companies. And now he does about like close to 35K a month doing technical writing for them. And so I knew that there was money in this niche. And I think it's largely just finding an area, because a lot of people will, like where we come from, will be like, hey, I want to talk to burnt out 9-to-5ers, but actually selling B2B is so much more valuable. Like there's a guy, Maxwell Copy, people can go back to his episode. He scaled from 0 to 100K a month in 2 years while still in college, still like partying as a frat guy. And I couldn't do that personally, but it's like these boring e-com niches that like actually print money.
Yeah. I think, and if you're decent at copywriting, like that's definitely an angle like I want to lean more into in the future. Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Where can people find you? Where can they interact with you online?
Probably easiest just like on Twitter. It's like the Harry Beadle. You should just like follow my handle there. If you want to subscribe to my newsletter, website is harrybeadle.com. Pretty easy to find. And yeah, like they're probably the 2 main places right now.
Awesome, lads. Well, if you're still listening here, you either really like me or you really like Harry, or maybe you like both of us. So give us 5 stars and get back to growing your agency.